Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Genevieve and I like to make videos on farmhouse style, antiques, Goodwill hauls, how to chalk paint furniture, which is exactly what I'm going to show you guys how to do today. I love making videos like this, especially since I'm always redoing furniture for my house, flipping things, using them for a few months and then selling them. So I finally feel like I found the pieces that I've been looking for a long time that I never found, and I think these are going to stay in my house for a very long time. So if you can see right next to me, this is the piece that I did in my last chalk paint with me video, and I finally found a smaller piece that is similar to this style. There we go. Similar to that style with the turned legs, and this is going to be used as like an end table in our living room. So I found this at a local antique store for $45. And once I heard that price, I was like, get it in my car, like that's coming home with me. So this is also the piece that I filmed in the back of my car in one of my earlier videos that I drove around with for a few weeks because I didn't want my fiance to know that I bought it, so you know what I mean. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to show you guys step by step exactly how I am going to refinish this piece. So if you've watched my videos in the past, I love to thrift. I like to do things on a budget, especially since I like flip my decor so much. So I always try to do things pretty affordable. I never want to like tell you guys to go buy like a $60 can of chalk paint when you're trying to refinish furniture. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. So all of the materials here are very affordable. I used this Zinsser, which in my last chalk paint video I called this Zinsesser. Someone totally called me out and I was like, oh my god, I hate that I said that. But this is Zinsser 123 primer. This is really important to use if you have a dark piece like the one behind me. If you're doing like a stripped piece of furniture that's down to like the bare wood, if you're painting over a piece of furniture that's already white, you don't need to go ahead and prime it. But if you have a dark piece like this, I would definitely prime it because you're going to get some bleed through. That happened to me in my last chalk paint video and I had to end up using this, and I can't recommend this enough. I'm sure there's a bunch of primers on the market. If you can find one cheaper, try it out. But I love this stuff. I think this small can was maybe between like $10 and $15, I think this was. So this will save you a bunch of chalk paint if you use this first, because if you end up having bleed through and you keep putting coats of chalk paint to try to prevent it, you're wasting all your chalk paint. So use this first. And then if you follow me, you know I love this stuff. Rust-Oleum chalked paint. My favorite colors are linen white and aged gray. They're like my top two. I'm actually filming on a piece of furniture right now that I'm gonna paint in aged gray. So I'm gonna have a video coming up with that. But this one is linen white. This is exactly what the can looks like. Home Depot finally carries this for $20 a can, and Amazon has it for like, I think around 16 or 17. So if you know you're gonna paint some furniture, buy that in advance and save yourself a couple bucks. What I also use for my, oh god, my feet hurt. What I also use for my paint projects, this is a 1.5 inch brush. Use whatever you want. I'm actually now thinking that I can probably foam roll the primer on and it would save my life, but whatever. This is a 1.5 inch brush from the Dollar Tree. You don't need all these fancy schmancy brushes that cost $10. $10, that's a fourth of the price that I spent on this freaking piece of furniture. No. This was $1.07 with tax in New Jersey. from the Dollar Tree. This is fine. You don't need some crazy, wonderful brush. And then I just have some disinfecting wipes. I know these are hard to come by. I should be using them to disinfect myself from COVID, but instead I use them on furniture. So this is just random disinfectant wipes. You could use a cloth or a dish rag with some soap and water just to clean off your piece, because you never know if you got it from someone's house, like what they did on it or what they did to it. I don't know how long this sat in an antique store. Could have been centuries. That place was open since like 1970, so wipe your stuff down. And then you're gonna need something to open your can of paint. Then last but not least, where'd my sander go? Oh shoot, I have a sanding block somewhere. So these last two items aren't necessary if you're not interested in like distressing your piece or whatever. But if you do like that like light distressed look on like the edges and the corners of your furniture, I would definitely recommend a sanding block. You can sometimes find these at the Dollar Tree. When I find them, I buy like 10 of them. They're my favorite. I don't know what grit this is, but they're just like easy to use. They're only $1, so they're my favorite. I get them at the Dollar Tree. And then you can also use a metal spackle knife. This takes off paint beautifully, and I use it for like all my furniture pieces. You just kind of like go up the edge. I will show you guys, but these work awesome. So if you can afford to grab one of these, I'm sure they're less than $5. Pick one of these up too for distressing your furniture. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna clean this piece up, let it dry for like a few minutes, and then I'm gonna end up putting some primer on it. So with some of my pieces that are darker like this, I'm noticing that I should be doing like 2 coats of primer instead of 1, just because I think it will really prevent that bleed through from coming through. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'll let you guys know how many coats I go with, but I'm thinking I'm gonna do 2. And I actually am gonna see if I have a foam roller and a tray, because that's just gonna be so much easier to roll this stuff on. It'll save a lot of time. So I did end up finding a roller. This is just like one of the small rollers with the small foam. So this is just a small foam roller. These are like really good for small projects, cabinets, all that good stuff. So I luckily found an extra roll in the garage. I have a paper plate because I don't have any extra paint trays. So this is gonna be just for the primer that I'm gonna roll on. I will brush in certain areas that are more detailed, but this will just make my life a little bit easier. So I have been painting for quite a few years now, and I still learn something new every time I paint. So I wanted to show you guys, this is just 1 coat of primer so far, and I actually found that I loved using the foam roller. I think that it gave much better coverage than the brush. So I'm gonna do 1 more coat of the primer and go from there. I'll see if maybe I'll do a 3rd. The point of me using so much primer this time around is because I am running a little bit low on this can of chalk paint, and the more coats of the primer, sorry, I'm just wiping the paint that I splattered on the floor. The point of using quite a few coats of the primer is to prevent you from using so much of your chalk paint the primer is cheaper than the chalk paint, so I want to use that up before I like use a whole entire can on a small piece like this. So that's the plan. I'm gonna let that dry and then we will add a second coat of primer. Okay guys, sadly I am losing daylight and it's rainy outside, so the lighting isn't the greatest, but I will forever put 2 coats of primer on my piece. So this has covered extremely well, and now I know that I will probably only have to do 1 coat of chalk paint on this because this covered so well. And then that's actually smarter for me in the long run because I'm saving on chalk paint and I won't use as much of the can trying to cover this piece when I can just use the primer that's cheaper. So I'm really glad I did that. I don't know why I haven't been doing that for years. So you learn something new every day, and I'm glad I could show you guys how good that primer worked on this piece. So that was just 2 coats, and I've never used the roller before, and I'm really glad I used the roller. That's also not a turd on the floor. It looked like a turd on the floor. That's my scrunchie that I didn't want to get ruined. But yeah, I think that I will forever do 2 coats of primer, and I will use a roller on the bigger sections. That was like a no-brainer for me. The coverage was much better with a roller. So if you can get a mini roller like this, they're at Home Depot, hardware stores. I really liked using that on the larger areas of the piece. So yes, I am out of breath. I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna do chalk paint, and then I'll probably have to catch in with you guys tomorrow because the lighting is just not doing so hot. We are really losing daylight outside, so I can't wait to show you guys this when it's all done. So this is 2 coats of primer, and then we're gonna go over that with our chalk paint, okay? And you can already see like just how crisp white that color is. This stuff really does cover well. It's just with some antique pieces of furniture, you will get that original finish bleeding through. So I do think it's worth it to do the primer. But like I said, if you have a light piece of furniture, or if you're painting over like something that's raw wood, white, you don't really need to prime. But look at the difference in that already. I think that looks so much better. And I will also show you guys a close-up of the finish when it's all dry, because you will also, if you use this product, you'll come to find that it doesn't leave any brush strokes, which I absolutely love. So you already saw me paint with primer. You know how to paint. I'm not gonna go ahead and film like a whole video or fast motion of me painting. So I will show you the coverage after 1 coat of this, and then I'm gonna show you guys how I go in with the spackle knife and the sanding block and get that like chippy farmhouse look. All right, I'm gonna attempt to film this the best I can, but I wanna do a top view so you can see up close just how good this coverage is. So I'm gonna try my best to do this one-handed and try to look in the camera. So that's just like a couple swipes, barely any paint on my brush. And I know the lighting is not the best. I apologize. I'm like working in the dark. And I will show you guys after just how smooth this finish looks. You won't even be able to see like any brush strokes or anything. I can't remember if I said this yet or not. So I wanted to just film real quick while I'm finishing the other side of this, that this paint dries so fast, and it's one of my favorite parts about this paint, because you get a piece of furniture home, like who wants to wait like 7 days? Like you gotta wait 1 day to put the top coat on. Like you gotta wait 1 day to put on the primer, and then the next day you can put on a coat of chalk paint, and then the next day, like it's not like that at all. This stuff takes like 20 minutes to dry, I swear. And that's one of the reasons I love using it, because I'm so impatient. Like I am finally getting around to putting this chalk paint coat on. It'll be dry in like less than an hour, and then I can sand it, and I can finally put it on display in my living room. So that is another reason that I love this stuff. Okay guys, so this is the final reveal with 1 coat of chalk paint, and I did 2 coats of primer. So like I had said in previous clips, that's going to be my new go-to. Definitely to do 2 coats of primer, because it saved me a ton of chalk paint. So I want to show you guys exactly how crazy dogs. Oh, you better be nice. I want to show you guys exactly how I go in and distress. So as you can see with like the piece behind it, very similar style piece. I go in and distress very lightly in areas that it will look natural. So you don't want to just put a huge streak down the middle of this piece, because technically if this was like antique and being like bumped around, you would only see like distressing on like the corners here, the edges here, some edging in here. I think that's how pieces look more natural, when you distress in areas that would naturally get bumped into. So like all around here, like these edges would naturally get distressed. Here would all get distressed, but like here would not really be something that would get naturally distressed. That's just my opinion. You can distress however you want, but that's my opinion. That's how I do most of my furniture, and I think it turns out pretty well. So I am going to show you guys exactly how I go in and distress. All right, so hopefully that's a good angle for you guys. Let me grab my stuff. I have my, ooh, this sun. I have my sanding block that I told you guys I get just from the Dollar Tree, and I have my spackle knife. This you can get at any hardware store. You can use regular sandpaper, whatever you want. But I love the spackle knife, especially the metal one. Let me see if I can get this sunlight. Especially the metal one, because it takes off the paint really well. You of course just want to be gentle that you're not digging into the solid wood piece. So I use a mixture of both, but I will show you guys just how easily the paint will come off with the spackle knife. So just gently go down your piece. And keep in mind, like if you do exactly what I did, I'm going through 2 coats of primer and a coat of chalk paint, so you may have to give it a little bit of force, but you don't want to go crazy. So for straight lines and stuff like that, I usually use the spackle knife. And then for like the corners up here, I tend to use the sanding block. So let me bring you closer and show you guys how nicely this corner will come out. And just that little touch, like I love just that little touch of, sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand. I love that little touch of stressing. Oh my God, this is horrible. And you can hear my dog squeaking his toy. Let me flip this around. Okay, There you go, you can see a little better, but that's with the sanding block. And then, like I said, on those like straight line areas, I just go through with the spackle knife and kind of chip away at the paint. And I think that comes out pretty natural looking. So I love that. I'm just gonna go through different areas and start distressing some areas. So really, you can't go wrong. Just start sanding away at areas that will look pretty natural. All the areas that have like this sharp edge, some details, just go ahead and start chipping away at some paint. And before you know it, you'll be like, wow, this looks like really chippy and farmhouse. Where you can't even get the doors back open because you took the knobs off and you basically like pinched them shut. Oh, here we go. There's one. Oh, look. Boom. Another thing, guys, the most wonderful thing about this is you can totally mess this up, scrape paint off of the wrong area, and all you do is grab a little chalk paint and put it back on your brush and go over it. Easy peasy. This lighting is terrible. I'm gonna keep going. questions on like sealing and all that good stuff. Personally, a lot of my pieces, granted I don't have children yet, but a lot of my pieces I actually don't seal. This piece has never been sealed, and you can see the finish on it. Still looks great, but I don't have a bunch of like kids putting fingerprints all over it. So maybe once I have kids, I will retouch on the sealing subject. But I do want to say, I have used polycrylic, Minwax polycrylic in the past, and some pieces it works really well. Some pieces it has ruined. So just be very careful. Over top of chalk paint, you definitely want to use a polycrylic, never a polyurethane. Polyurethane will yellow your piece, so be very careful. Although I have used polycrylic in the past, and it has yellowed a piece of mine. I started in like the top left corner. It started looking like cat pee, literally like a cat peed on my piece, and it was dripping down. It was horrible. So I just stopped and I never sealed the piece. So I'm always really hesitant to put top coats on stuff because you work so hard to paint a piece of furniture and then it turns yellow, and it infuriates me. So let me get off my soapbox and show you guys a close-up of how I distressed this. I put the original hardware back on. I literally just sprayed it with some cleaner and I left it as is. I really like the hardware on this one, so I just left it. And I just went in and subtle. I did subtle sanding. Just in some random areas. You don't have to go too crazy unless that's your style, but I just go in random areas and start distressing. I seriously cannot thank you guys enough for watching my videos. YouTube has become such a creative outlet for me. I absolutely love making videos for you guys and helping you with like farmhouse style and antiques and how to do furniture and just how to make your home feel like a place you really love on a budget. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna go wash all this paint and junk off my hands, and then I will see you guys in the next video. Seriously, love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.